a lot of time. A urinal piss is a quick one and done situation. If you're sitting down to take a number two, that's when you really like got some phone time. Because I'm not a pusher. I like to just let it come out naturally.
Oh man, sometimes I push too hard and get a headache.
A buddy at work told me that one of his friends was like, recently had the conversation with him like, do you guys ever have like people get in trouble or get fired for masturbating at work in the bathrooms?
Can't say I have.
My buddy who I work with was like, no, I can't say that's a problem that we've ever had. The guy was like, oh, in my work, we now have a camera going into the bathroom so that if you have your phone when you go into the bathroom, you get in trouble now. And then
what?
Brandon was like,
know?
Brandon was like, yeah, dude, that is not a problem that we have at work.
It's also a huge invasion of privacy.
Well, it's not like the camera's not inside of the bathroom; it's just on the door. But then the guy's like, "Yeah, well, like I've never done it while someone else was in there," and I was like, "What the fuck? This is not a private bathroom that you're masturbating in?" Like,
you just go into one of the stalls, and someone's like, "What is that weird slapping sound?"
Also,
that's apparently how people started getting in trouble.
Also, your friend just admitted that he's one of the culprits.
Well, I don't know the person who actually was masturbating, or who. Yeah, I don't know that person.
The masturbator.
I don't know the place of work, so I
can't say. Yeah, I'm like, I've never really had the urge just while sitting at work. I feel like if I did, I would go out to my car or something,
or go home or something. Like, fuck.
If
like,
you have to masturbate
boss,
that badly,
I'm not feeling good, and they're like, "What's the problem?" And you're like, "I just have this aching in my loins.
I really gotta masturbate."
So horny! You like the scene in I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson where there's the guy the guy with the honk if you're horny bumper sticker, and then there's just a guy who just starts following him around honking
like relentlessly.
And then finally at the end, Tim Robinson's at a funeral and the guy's just sitting behind his car honking his horn, and Tim Robinson goes out there and the guy's like, I just thought you might have like some porno mags or something in your trunk so I could take care of how horny I am. Tim Robinson's like, no, why'd you do that? And then they have a conversation, and in the end, Tim Robinson does have porno mags in the back of his trunk.
Well, on that note, welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Hard Reset, a Cold North production. I'm your host, Patrick the Law Morris. Joining me this week, as usual, we have the non-work bathroom masturbator, gorgeous Ben Reynolds.
Yeah.
And the, we're not sure, jury's still out, work bathroom masturbator, Andrew Etchen.
Oh, you know it. Hello.
You just denied it a little too vehemently. So,
no, I just agreed to it. I've done it 100 times. No, I guess I already denied myself.
Now you're flip-flopping.
I know. I just want to be part of the club.
You're listening to number 98.
Cool kids are masturbating at work.
You're listening to number 98, the one where we check in on the Game of the Year discussion halfway through 2019. You can see everything we do all in one spot, including our movies podcast, No Refunds, the podcast that watches bad movies so you don't have to. All of that over at coldnorthpro.com. Coming up tonight, we'll be discussing the potential expansion of the Nintendo Switch Online free games program, a formal acknowledgement of a major criticism of Pokemon Sword and Shield, and the final batch of Xbox One backwards compatible games. But before we get started with that, I want to know what you guys have been playing this week. So, Ben, why don't you tell me what you've been playing this week?
I guess really the only thing new is Apex Legends Season 2.
That's the only thing new to you?
That I've been playing.
What, have you played Bridge Crew before?
Oh, no, I guess not, but...
Okay, tell us what you think of Apex.
Apex Season 2 is pretty cool. The map has changed up. There's wildlife now that you have to deal with. New character. I haven't encountered her yet in a fight, and I don't have her unlocked yet, so I don't really know much about her. But then there's a lot of new attachments for like the smaller guns that basically seemed worthless before that now make them a lot like more useful. So like you're if you get the Mozambique, the fucking little 3-shot shotty that's just
Yeah.
like a handgun, there's an attachment for it that actually makes it like a lot better, I guess. And same with like the P2020 and stuff like
nice.
that. So yeah, there's like a lot of new stuff. A lot of yeah, it seems pretty interesting. There's a new kit gun. I'm not sure much about it. I haven't gotten it yet, so I don't know. But I've been told that it's really sweet. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to getting a chance to kind of dig into it with someone else actually, because I've just played it a little bit solo so far.
Yeah, I might actually, because I had heard the map changed, like the Leviathans came and knocked some shit down or something. And I'm interested about that. That sounds pretty cool. So I'm thinking I might jump back in and see what it's like.
Are these like giant creatures just like walking around in the matches now?
Yeah, there's just a giant it makes it harder to fly into certain places.
Because like
And then,
monsters can kill
there's
players now.
well, I don't think that there's any monsters that can kill players, but there's these like flying things that can come in and swoop death boxes. They also, I am not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure sometimes they're just carrying random death boxes too, with like legendary and stuff goods in them and stuff. So that's kind of cool. But they might be able to attack you. I may not. I haven't dug too deep in yet.
That is pretty cool. Every time something like this happens with like, every time a developer shows me like dinosaur-like creatures in games, I just really want a Jurassic Park game, like a really proper Jurassic Park game.
Nah, Turok.
I mean, yeah, like Horizon Zero Dawn really gave me that itch. And then the idea of like playing a battle royale and having these dinosaur type creatures come in just makes me want, like, I just want that to be the game. Like, I don't want to be fighting other people. I just want the dinosaurs to be like the hazard and to really outclass me a lot, like Alien Isolation. Just be trying to get away.
I just wish Apex actually had the Titans, because that was like one of the most fun parts of Titanfall 2's multiplayer, was being able to call in your Titan and just like fucking wreck people, or not wreck people if other people ganged up on you with theirs. Like, I remember having a moment where some guy in their Titan was like chasing after me, and I ran in some building and he was like hiding outside the door, basically like trying to kneel down in this robot to like see in the door and find me. And I managed to like get my Titan summon, and I summoned it like right under him, and he wasn't paying attention. So as he's like trying to look for me, my Titan just lands on him and blows him up. And then I just like jumped in mine and was like, woo, yeah, just like, began to wreck shit.
Well, they were very forthcoming about, like, they tried to get the Titans in, but they just...
And they also tried to get wall running, but they couldn't.
Yeah, they just couldn't make it.
They decided
fun.
it was unfair. It made it unfair and not fun.
Yeah. But I do agree with you that the thought of it is really cool, and hopefully they'll figure out a way to bring it in later on. But Andrew, what have you been playing this week?
A little bit of two different things. Because they released Detroit Become Human for free, I got that and have been playing that a little bit, and I'm only probably about 5 chapters or something into that game, and that game is definitely very interesting. Like, I played Heavy Rain a long time ago on the PS3, and I definitely really enjoyed that, just as this sort of intense story that you just, basically like a choose your own story adventure. And I'm very blown away by the visuals in that game. It's sort of shocking how realistic and like crazy everything looks. But otherwise, I've been just playing more and more Kingdom Come Deliverance here and there. Just a baby on the battlefield, kind of trying to like make myself less of a baby. And that game it definitely starts off very slow, but I've sort of just recently broken into the part of the game where I'm able to actually like do a little bit more exploration and learning like how to do the combat and everything. And that game is really something. It's a lot of fun, but man, is it unforgiving, especially with the fact that to save you have to drink this like potion. Basically, it's like an alcohol, and you have a finite number of those, so you have to either learn how to make more of them or buy them or find them or whatever. But otherwise you can sleep in a bed to save. But like, I've had some moments where I played for like an hour, maybe two. And I was like, yes, okay, I've made all this progress. I like trained at this
And then
guy.
you
I learned
died and you didn't
this
drink
stuff.
one.
And then I was like, okay, I'm going to just quickly ride over to that town over there. And like riding through the woods all of a sudden for like the first time ever, I'm riding down the road and some guy is just like standing in the middle of the road, like with something raised over his head. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I just go blasting past him. And all of a sudden some dog comes out of the bushes and like chases me and my horse throws me off. And like 6 guys just attacked me with this dog in the middle of the woods, and needless to say, I got absolutely destroyed. And so I was like, when I died and I reloaded, I was just like, no, oh my god, I lost all the stuff I've been doing the last like 2 hours. This is such a fucking waste of energy. And I just got really pissed off and turned the game off.
Yeah,
And
I
then
don't
like a
do
day or
well
two later, I turned it back on.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, like then a day or two later, I turned it back on and was like, okay, so I only really lost like half of the progress that I had been doing, and I'm in the town already where I like did the other stuff. So I quickly just took care of that again, and then very like slowly and carefully. Like now, I've realized you really do have to be like pretty deliberate in everything you're doing. Like if you're riding between a town, you should go and sleep somewhere so that you save your game real quick, and
Right.
like but you also have to manage like food and your energy from sleeping, and sleeping actually reduces your nourishment. So after you sleep, you usually have to like eat something.
You have to
or
wake up and
find
eat breakfast.
Yeah, literally.
Sounds
So like
grindy.
certain
Yeah,
places
it's-
like you'll well not really though, because
No,
it's laid out pretty deliberately. So a lot of
sounds-
places like where you can sleep, there's usually a pot of food cooking right there. So you wake up, you eat from the food, and I like to overeat, so my guy just has like shitloads of energy. But when you do that, your stamina drops a little bit, and then as
sounds-
like overeating digests,
it sounds
it's
to
got
me
a lot of complicated stuff, but it's
like
I like it.
It sounds to me like it's just too involved in being immersive and like, oh, it sounds too simmy.
It feels that way at first, but you quickly realize that like your energy and your nourishment and stuff, like it doesn't drop that quickly. So it's not like this devastating. I mean, probably
I
if you
just-
played on like hardcore or something, it would go down a lot faster.
I'm
but
just
I'm just
not
playing on
nuts.
normal, and
I'm
'Cause
just not
what I
nuts about
found
like
about it-
things like that with like how you have to manage so much stuff.
well, it's sort of like it reminds me a lot of Skyrim, but it's like actual historical context, which I actually weirdly like the time period in the 15th century and everything, and like how Christianity is like such a huge thing. It weirdly has like there's no magic or anything like that, but the sort of the time period and how people believe in things, like it has this weird kind of mysticism to it at the same time, where it feels very like fantasy while actually just being completely realistic. But I do agree, like all those factors of having to like manage stuff was really daunting at first. But
Yeah.
then as I just played for like I've probably gotten like maybe 10 hours in, maybe a little more, and I've now realized it's not really that difficult, because you can do things like Skyrim. Like if you want to go and get food, you could go and buy it.
Yeah.
Or you could sneak into the town in the middle of the night and go up to the different, but you have to be careful, because if a guard sees you and you don't have a torch lit in the town, they'll try to arrest you, or they'll come and like yell at you. So you have to like sneak into town and like steal a bunch of food off of one of the trader, stands,
Well,
or
yeah,
things
so
like that. And so it's weirdly, I don't know.
What
it's
game are
very-
we even talking about again?
it's
a lot
Kingdom
of fun.
Come Deliverance.
It's a lot of fun. I definitely would recommend just like, I have it, Patrick, if you're
Download
interested.
it.
I would download it and just play like the first like 3 hours, and just because it does actually move forward, and the story is really good. But it definitely is, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
On that note, I am going to remind you pitched to buy Detroit Become Human months ago, so you could have been playing that game months ago.
I know, but the fact that they gave it away for free and I hadn't bought it myself, I was happy to add it to my library.
Yeah,
because it is that game is really impressive.
It's an interesting
that
game
game's
for sure.
shocking. Like the first few chapters, stuff is intense.
Yeah,
it's very intense.
So I personally have been playing Gears of War 3. I'm about halfway through the game, and that game is awesome. Like it's definitely, It feels earned that I played Gears 1 and Gears 2 first, because just in every aspect, like gameplay, story, graphics, in every way, Gears 3 is such a major step forward. And so it's nice to, like, I don't know, I'm really, really enjoying Gears 3. It's a ton of fun, and visually on the Xbox One X, it just looks amazing. Ben, I know that you're not really wanting to play those games, but I mean, at least maybe you could download one of them for the multiplayer, because the multiplayer is going to be pretty fun, and on the One X, it's really impressive. And I know that you recently got a One X, so.
Yeah, but it's too clogged up with Banjo-Kazooie because today's the 20th anniversary
What?
of Banjo-Kazooie.
But why is your Xbox One X clogged up with Banjo-Kazooie? That game is like 300 megs.
I downloaded it 300 times.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
20th anniversary, though.
Are you playing Banjo-Kazooie today?
I was thinking about it.
All right.
I do have it downloaded on my Xbox.
I do not have Banjo-Kazooie downloaded on my Xbox.
Why not?
Because I'm not a big fan of that game.
Really?
I
I thought
love
you did like it.
Banjo-Kazooie. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
But
The first one's like the best game.
I found out that it was the 20th anniversary of the first game because there was a guy on, I think it was on Reddit, that I noticed that he posted. He made a video of himself playing the opening intro on all of the different instruments, and videotaped himself playing each individual track, and it's really awesome.
Nice. You should send that link to me, because that sounds interesting.
I wonder if I can find it again.
And I remember Banjo-Kazooie being kind of like a mind-blowing game for N64. It was so open world.
And people
Kind
were... It was very
but it was
strange.
after Super Mario 64, which was the first game that blew my mind with its open...
With, like, the 3D platforming.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's... Banjo-Kazooie is an interesting thing. Oh, no, Banjo-Kazooie came out on June 29th of 1998.
Oh, well then that was an old video that somebody had reposted. And
Yeah,
made me
must
think,
have. But
Okay,
regardless, Banjo-Kazooie, it's an interesting thing because it was like, it was second party, but exclusive. And
Well,
it
that was
like,
rare, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was, so it was second party, but it was exclusive, but it was also like one that was like arguably on par with Nintendo's first party stuff. And so a lot of people really did fall in love with it. And rightfully so. It's just not my cup of tea is all. But now it's time for the news at now.
News right now. Not later
News.
right now.
All right.
This is the radio.
This is radio. So news at now. Nintendo is looking to expand their online games. So during Nintendo's 79th annual general meeting of shareholders on Thursday, this was a while ago, not this because I've had this we missed a week. Sorry guys. President Furukawa was asked specifically if the company has plans to re-release Nintendo 64 and GameCube software, to which he replied, "At this place, we cannot tell new information about future classic hardware, among others. But," and keep in mind this is translated from Japanese, "but we are thinking about providing extension of the online service which is currently providing Famicom or NES software, as well as other methods of providing them." So I thought this was pretty interesting stuff, because I was thinking, like, is he talking about hardware? Is he, like, what would they add to the software or to the online thing?
Well, so I mean, my biggest thing about this is that I think because like I've heard numerous people tell me that, oh man, if they just released a Nintendo 64 classic like they have, that would sell so well. because they're like, yeah, you just put GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario, blah blah, and I'm like, okay, you just named 2 games that you can't put on that.
Yeah,
And they're like,
absolutely.
"What?"
2
And
games that
I'm
you
like,
absolutely can't put on that.
they're like, what? And I'm like, those games are Rare, and Microsoft owns Rare now, so there's no way that they are going to be on there. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, that's the biggest problem with them doing is that like a lot of games that people think of as first party Nintendo games because they only came out on Nintendo 64 are not actually first party Nintendo games.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's kind of like that era, that generation is when I think re-releasing these retro games is going to run into a lot of licensing trouble because like Rare and Nintendo have been playing, or Microsoft and Nintendo have been playing pretty nice lately. And I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that Microsoft lets Nintendo put Rare games out on Switch because I mean Microsoft owns Minecraft and they put it everywhere.
Yeah, but
right?
letting them put it on a classic device
that would be
market.
It would be interesting for sure. But one of them that you mentioned, GoldenEye, Jesus Christ, there is no fucking way EA lets GoldenEye onto a N64 classic without taking way too big a cut of that pie.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention, whenever people tell me that they want it for GoldenEye, I'm like, you don't remember GoldenEye. You don't remember actually playing GoldenEye.
Yeah, you don't remember playing a multiplayer.
Now,
It's impossible.
Controls are trash. Absolute fucking trash.
Unless you're
Or you had
playing
to
with
use the
2
C buttons to
controllers,
look
which
around.
is so stupid.
Yeah, it's absurd.
But because GoldenEye actually had a control like option where you can use one player can use 2 controllers, so they have one stick to move and the other stick to look. And
Really?
Yeah, it's just this goofy ass solution to playing
That's weird.
a very old game. But no, Ben, you're totally right that like those games, it is the era that people like games started to become like games that weren't Nintendo games started to become really iconic and people really closely associated it with Nintendo because they were only able to come out on the N64.
Yeah, because PlayStation was doing their own thing at that point in time, and then everything else was on PC.
Right. Or Sega.
Yeah, I guess I forgot about Sega.
It's okay. Everyone forgets about Sega.
What was the one at that point in time?
At that point in time, they were doing
64-bit Sega.
The Jaguar.
Oh yeah.
But
Sega.
yeah. So what do you guys? So I think Ben, you're right about the classics. But what about the like because you know the NES online thing that you get when you pay for Nintendo Switch Online?
Yeah.
I feel like it's inevitable that they bring Super Nintendo to that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they don't, that's really dumb. And because that, like, right now, I don't know anybody who really plays on that.
Yeah, and
Whereas, like, if you put NES, I would actually play, or SNES. I mean, then I would actually play on it.
right. I know it's a very unpopular opinion, but I don't think the NES was a good console. I think that the NES had some really good games. But overall, games like technology wasn't advanced enough back then for games to be really good.
Well,
to hold up.
It's just like how we're talking about how the N64s. A lot of games have terrible controls because the N64 controls were not very good. Like they just didn't. Based on what they had, people didn't have. They hadn't figured out how to make games like very good yet. And then with the Super Nintendo, by the time you got there, they had figured out how to make good games with a very limited control scheme. And it's like then the next biggest hurdle that they had to get over was creating a better control scheme as well as creating better graphics. But
yeah,
they handled it. It's the evolution has definitely, I mean, it's benefited games. While there is still some nostalgia and they are fun to go back to at times, it's they're frustrating at times to go back to too.
Absolutely. No, and I think that the number of NES games that actually hold up today without just like massively rose tinted goggles are like the number of those NES games are very, I mean, probably you could count them on one hand. I would say like Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Bros. Honestly, I wouldn't even say the first Legend of Zelda is any good. Or like holds up today. But then like I think that the oldest generation that has a significant number of games that still really do hold up is the Super Nintendo. And so that's I think that that's about as far back as I would want to go. And so the prospect of Nintendo bringing Super Nintendo games to the Switch Online, I think is how they could get me as a customer.
Yeah.
Andrew, any particular games you would want to see come to the platform?
I mean, other than really like N64 games, there's not really a lot that come to mind, honestly.
No Super Nintendo games you've got real nostalgia for?
I don't honestly. I didn't play very many, other than like the Diddy Kong like Island games.
Diddy Kong Island?
Or is that what I'm thinking? That's not the right.
Diddy Kong Racing.
Well, wasn't Diddy Kong
Country.
Racing? Well, that's N64. Oh, yeah, you're right. Donkey Kong Country. You know, for those NES games.
Those are Super Nintendo, but yeah.
Are they? Oh, well, see, there you go. Like, I don't really know a lot of the NES library, actually.
Yeah, we've exposed a massive blind spot for Andrew inadvertently.
Oh God.
Yeah, Excitebike and Duck Hunt. I think you guys just added 2 of the 5 that I think are really decent on NES. But yeah, no, I'll be interested to see where this
Mario
goes.
games in there.
Only 2 Mario games. Super Mario Bros. 2, not good.
But if there were SNES Mario games,
then I'm in. Yoshi's Island, fuck yeah. Like, and that's the thing. I think drop the mega hits on the Nintendo Switch thing, the Switch Online subscription. I don't sub to Switch Online because I just don't think it's worth $20 a year. But drop those Super Nintendo games on that, and I'll sub.
Oh man, if I could play like the old school Donkey Kong Country games on there, that would be so fucking sweet.
I would be so happy.
Well, and I bet they would actually be able to sell Donkey Kong, the one that's available on Switch.
Oh yeah, they would use it to promo.
Because yeah, exactly, it would get people who were not into fucking Donkey Kong Country really at all. Because they're still fairly similar games, even though they came out like 20 years or
decades
more than
apart,
20 years apart.
Yeah, and I mean they're remarkably similar, and like it's I think that making those games more accessible, because the first 3 country games are on 3DS, which is great, but like it's nowhere, there aren't nearly as many specifically new 3DSs out there as there are Switches, and it doesn't have nearly as much of that mind share. People are kind of putting the 3DS in the rearview mirror. So make those games more accessible on Switch. But yeah, so moving on, some Pokemon drama. Game Freak has kind of come under some major fire since shortly after E3, when they let the cat out of the bag about some bad news. They said that not all Pokemon are going to be included in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And they took some heat, and after weeks of criticism, they've finally broken their silence with a statement that a lot of people felt was pretty underwhelming. So the statement reads, thank you to... What? Yeah, we didn't want to.
The statement reads, we didn't want to.
No. The statement reads, thank you to all of our fans for caring so deeply about Pokemon. Recently, I shared the news that some Pokemon cannot be transferred to Pokemon Sword and Shield and Pokemon Shield. I've read all of your comments and appreciate your love and passion for Pokemon. Just like all of you, we are passionate about Pokemon, and each and every one of them is very important to us. After so many years of developing the Pokemon video games, This is a very important, this is a very difficult decision for me. I'd like to make one thing clear. Even if a specific Pokemon is not available in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, that does not mean that it will not appear in future games. The world of Pokemon continues to evolve. The Galar region offers new Pokemon to encounter, trainers to battle, and adventures to embark on. We are pouring our hearts into these games, and we hope that you will look forward to joining us on this new journey. So, Ben,
I'm into it. I'm fine with it. Honestly, it's whatever. Like, I don't know. I think that like the people who are real like bummed out about it, it's like, well,
they're like, what about my Charmander? You're like, oh my god.
Like I'm also not that crazy about like moving Pokemon over from old games anymore because I'm just like, oh yeah, like raise new Pokemon. It's cooler and more fun, like than just like trading yourself a Pokemon
fresh each time.
Then
like level 100 Charizard
way through. Yeah,
but
like that's
because all the players want to be the very best.
Yeah, but
best
then
there ever was.
Be the best, grind it out.
Yeah, I mean, put the work in. I think that you do make a good argument that is super straightforward that I haven't like it. You take a good stance that I think is super straightforward that I haven't really seen a whole lot of people taking. Is just like, yeah, that's kind of what this game is supposed to be about. And if you're just bringing in all of your old Pokemon, you're kind of cheating.
Yeah, then you're starting the game with like all these overpowered things. It's like then the game's not challenging.
Exactly.
So, not necessarily, not saying I disagree with you. Just playing devil's advocate here. I do see a little bit of a point that, you know, they, like several months back, they announced Pokemon Bank, and not Pokemon Bank, Pokemon Home or whatever it's called, and made a really big deal out of like, this is basically cloud storage for Pokemon, and this is how you're going to move and where you're going to keep all of your Pokemon moving forward. And you're going to play them in this game, and you're going to like be able to send them up to the cloud and play them in the next one, and send them up to the cloud and play them in the next one. And they kind of made it seem like this was going to be this really integral part of the Pokemon experience. But now they're saying, oh, by the way, we're not going to be able to, like, you're not going to be able to bring them all over. It just
so like most
I can't get my Pokemon off
stuff.
my Game Boy.
Actually, so you can't get them off your
Blue or yellow.
Actually, I think there's a way to do it. So, because you can trade those up to through trades, you can get them up to 3rd gen. I'm trying to remember if they get stalled at 3rd gen. But then if you can get them, that's not so you can get them up to 3rd gen, and then you can move them. If you have a DS Lite, you can move them from a 3rd gen cartridge to the Safari Zone in a 4th gen cartridge. And then what?
How?
The DS Lite had a cartridge for both, or a slot for both DS games and Game Boy Advance games.
But you can use them both at the same time?
There is a way that you can, in the 4th gen games, you can move Pokemon that are on a 3rd gen cart into the Safari Zone, and then you can go to the Safari Zone in the 4th gen games and catch them.
But have to work for it again.
Yeah, it's very convoluted. And Ben, in the practical sense, I do totally agree with you that it's like, just play the fucking game, right? Like, it's raise some new Pokemon, it's build those new connections. You don't need to use the same Charmander that you were using when you were 6. But I do see that. I feel like maybe consumers are feeling a little bit duped because they were trying to sell this whole Pokemon Home thing as like this is a way that we're connecting the entire ecosystem, but also we're not going to connect to the entire ecosystem kind of thing. So I don't know. I think it's interesting that they even responded to the criticism instead of just letting the games come out and speak for themselves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like you have to kind of reach out at some point, or else people are just going to get so pissed off they just like stop buying it. That's like the No Man's Sky issue that they had when they just like stopped talking to everybody for like 6 months.
But look how that worked out. That like No Man's Sky is doing better than ever.
True, but the backlash during that silent period definitely made people like super salty. So if the final product that came out wasn't what it was, it would have been even worse.
Well, it wasn't the final product that came. Well, the final,
the next product,
the launch
yeah.
of the game.
Well, no, the relaunch.
Yeah. When they relaunched with Next, and it was finally the game that people had been really wanting the launch of the game to be, when that came out, and it was suddenly like their silence really paid off. And I think that this is a situation where maybe they could have benefited from just being quiet, release the game, let the game blow us all away, and then we're not going to care that we don't get to play as whatever the chandelier-shaped Pokemon, or like the Pokemon that's shaped like a key.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that like your Charmander is going to be able to. It's like
the big ones are going to be there.
Yeah, so it's like you're not. It's not like you're not going to be able to play with your fucking Pikachu.
People are like, but my Butterfree.
I bet your Butterfree would probably even still be there. Like,
yeah,
it's going to be like dumb Pokemon that nobody gave a fuck about that aren't going to be there.
Yeah, and well, I mean the world's a big place, and I think no matter where you go, like no matter which Pokemon you choose, you're gonna be able to find someone who they're like, that one's my favorite.
You know, friend in the world.
Exactly. But no, I think that
every variation of Unown there is.
Yeah. But I think that something that's really interesting about this statement, though, is when they say, even if a specific Pokemon is not available in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, that does not mean it will not appear in future games. To me, that sounds like a very closed off statement saying they're not going to be in Sword and Shield, but it could, like, they could be in future games, but they're not going to be in Sword and Shield. And so I'm kind of thinking that maybe they, like, when they first announced this, my immediate thought was like, well, they're gonna, like, it's a ton of work to move these Pokemon into the game and to render like 3D models and whatnot and to like create
it was
them.
a lot easier when they could just make like a little pixel art thing.
Right. It's a ton of work. And so I do want to recognize that. But my immediate thought was like, okay, so they're not all going to be there when the game comes out, but they're probably going to add them over time. But this kind of makes me think that maybe they're not.
No, yeah, I don't. I read some stuff about that, and I don't. It made it sound like a lot of people don't think they're going to add them.
Which I think could actually be really interesting, because it could add to like the meta game of like, this is how the game is balanced. And, you know, because remember when you were playing the first gen games for the first time, and that, I can't remember his name, but had that, like, that bitch at the end of the Elite Four had that Dragonite that was just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
That was like, and then, you know, 2 or 3 generations later, you can show up with your Garantia and just wreck that bitch's, like, face. You can just rub his face in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
But now, or Giratina, or whatever his name was, but now, like, this is the way the game is balanced. And I feel like maybe they put more care into this. Maybe this was more of a deliberate decision in balancing the game than we thought.
Well, in a way, I would say that actually, like, doing that is almost a way of, like, getting people to focus more on, like, this next gen. You know, they made all these Pokemon, and they're like, if everyone's just importing all their stupid Pokemon from, like, the first games they've played, then they're going to be very selective over the things that they catch.
Because this is Sword and Shield is the 6th generation of Pokemon, correct?
8th.
8th generation of Pokemon.
Yeah.
So we're talking about like over 1,000 fucking Pokemon at this point. Like, Jesus Christ, what more do you fucking want from
Yeah,
it sounds really nitpicky to me.
Yeah, I think that this is I hate that this is such an easy, like, stereotypical argument against people, but it's like it is very much an entitled gamer type thing of like there are people making this game, you know, and I want the guy making the Pokemon, designing the 3D models, to be able to go home at 5 and like have dinner with his kids and
I don't have to be like Rockstar.
Exactly. Like,
but I love them for what they do.
I don't need Electabuzz in the fucking game if it means that he's not going to get to go home and have dinner with his family.
Exactly. I want, but if Arthur Morgan is not going to end up as brilliantly rendered as he was, then fucking you're not allowed to go home.
Hours.
Okay.
Fucking stay all night.
So we've learned that there is 2 lines. There's a line of don't pass it, but if you're going to, make sure you pass the other one too and get into that Red Dead Redemption 2 territory.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then you better fucking do it.
Okay. So I mean, like if Pokemon's gonna if Electabuzz is gonna like make me cry at the end of Pokemon. Fuck, all right, Pokemon,
you're like,
you guys
no,
better stay all night.
better make Electabuzz in there.
You had such an electric personality.
Work 100 hours a week to get Electabuzz in there.
You're like, what a shock.
Justice for Electabuzz. Yeah, no. So I don't know. I'm kind of, I guess, Ben, I was kind of on the fence. I didn't really know where I was falling on this, but you've convinced me. It's like, just chill out. Like, play the fucking game. That's what it's there for. That's what you're buying it for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I feel like the Pokemon fan base is a wonderful community, I guess, but at the same time, it's like you guys are, you know, it's about evolution. Move forward and play with the next thing. You know.
Well, and there are a lot of people that like Pokemon is basically all they play, and so I do understand like the completionist mentality, but it's like play a different game so that, like we said, the guy can go home and have dinner with his family.
Exactly.
And if you're listening, Pokemon players, know that I love you, but get over it.
I mean, we play a lot of Pokemon on this podcast, but fucking play some different games. Red Dead Redemption 2, it's pretty great. A lot of people slaved away for a long time.
And
try it out.
Overcooked. Play Digimon. They're releasing that again soon.
Or play Donkey Kong Country 2. I heard on a podcast that they might be bringing it to the Nintendo Switch.
Hopefully.
So anyways, moving on. I'm really not sure how this one slipped by me, but about a month ago, Microsoft released their last batch of Xbox One backwards compatible titles. On the official Microsoft blog, the company announced, quote, after this week, we have no plans to add additional original Xbox or Xbox 360 titles to the catalog on Xbox One. The games that they released include, for the original Xbox, Armed and Dangerous, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Double Agent, and Unreal Championship 2. On the 360, Asura's Wrath, Battlefield 2, Enchanted Arms, Enslaved, Odyssey of the West, Far Cry Classic, Far Cry...
Enslaved is a good game.
Oh, I never played it. Haven't even heard of it.
That was a good PS3 game.
Far Cry Instinct Predator, Infinite Undiscovery, Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. I love that title. Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Sands, Skate.
Ooh, great game.
Ben, you liked Skate a lot.
I did indeed.
Star Ocean, The Last Hope, Super Puzzle Fighter 2
Ooh.
Turbo,
Star
Syndicate,
Ocean, that's a good game.
Syndicate, 2 Human, and Unreal Tournament 3.
Ooh, Unreal Tournament.
So there was kind of some bangers on that original Xbox list. Ben,
Yeah, like all the Splinter Cells,
the Splinter
Prince
Cells,
of Persia, those are all
and
really good.
Indiana
Enslaved.
Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, I know you're super excited for King Kong.
No, that's Billy.
It's so strange to me because, Ben, you mentioned it in the group chat when you saw that. You were like, who wants this game? Like, who is on there like begging for this game? But like, it's very funny to me how kindly history has looked upon that game. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But this post also gave some insight as to what the backwards compatibility team is going to be doing moving forward when they wrote, the team will, quote, help make the games you love playing on Xbox One compatible with future Xbox hardware. So while they're done moving old games onto the Xbox One, they're still the backward compatibility team, and now they're moving the games that we have on Xbox One into the future, which I think is really good that they're committed to that already.
Yeah. Definitely I would love to replay all the Splinter Cell games.
Well, all you got to do is get an Xbox One.
I know.
I would even, honestly, Andrew, I would even sell you one.
I don't buy things from Neanderthals.
Oh, okay. This is like, it's just sort of a list of games, but I think that it's pretty awesome. It's a really good send off to get these major games like the Splinter Cell series, especially the big one for me. The big one for most people, I think, is Chaos Theory, because that's the best Splinter Cell game. But the big one for me is Double Agent, because it's the original Xbox version of Double Agent, which is a totally different game from the Xbox 360 version of Double Agent. And it's the same team that made Chaos Theory, so it's basically Chaos Theory 2, so I'm really excited to play that. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Neat.
But moving on to the topic of the show.
Oh, it's the topic. The reason you're here.
The topic of the show.
All right.
That is it.
We're going to be checking in on the Game of the Year. Game of the Year watch. We're halfway through at this point. We missed last week, so we're at this point we're like halfway and 1 week in to 2019, and we just wanted to check in and see what Game of the Year so far is. Just a short list of some of the major releases this year, not saying that any of these are great or good or bad or anything, just saying that they're releases that made a splash. Sekiro, Resident Evil 2, Apex Legends, The Division 2, Anthem, Mortal Kombat 11, Kingdom Hearts 3, Ace Combat 7. There have been some games this year. Days Gone. So what are some games that have really struck a chord with you guys this year?
I haven't played it, but I would definitely say Mortal Kombat's probably a contender, because I know that's a very popular game. But for myself personally, I loved Metro Exodus. I thought that was a really impressive game.
Okay.
For a number of reasons.
I know that a lot of people, it wasn't received particularly well. So it's interesting.
It's definitely
to
a
hear
little clunky, but to me, it felt kind of like a mixture of Fallout and almost like a mixture of Fallout and Stalker. And so for me, I love those types of games. So that sort of style of game and that kind of post-apocalyptic thing and the story that goes with all of it. To me, I definitely had a very fun time playing that game. But in terms of a more crowd pleaser type thing, I would probably pass my thoughts to Mortal Kombat 11. I feel like that's probably up there. Or Sekiro. I certainly loved that game, but I know those Souls types games are not for everybody.
There's a major barrier to entry there.
Yeah.
Ben, what about
it's
you?
It's called Get Good Barrier.
I mean, of these that we've talked about, that we mentioned, I've played Resident Evil 2, Apex Legends, and then Days Gone. And I've played quite a bit of. I beat Resident Evil 2, and I also have played a significant amount of Apex. I played good amount
of Apex.
I played a good amount of Days Gone, but then I got an Xbox One X and basically put it away. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of really haven't played a ton of PlayStation since I got the One X, just because it's the graphics are better on this. So, and more of my friends play on it more often. But then we started playing some Bridge Crew. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Resident Evil 2 was very fun. I'd never played the game before, so I was excited to play it, and I might eventually, especially now that I have it on, now that I have the One X, I might go back and play the Jill story since I played the other one.
You mean the Claire story?
Time. Or the Claire story, I mean, sorry. Yeah, that's but it's yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that game and thought it was really cool and looked really good, the remake of it. And yeah,
yeah, I kind of agree with you that it's kind of down to two for me, which are Sekiro and Resident Evil 2. But Sekiro is just too fucking hard, so I got to give it to Resident Evil 2. It's just
that hard.
It's very hard, Andrew.
No, it's just timing. That's all it is.
It's just hard.
Well, for games that would come out, there's certainly one that I would definitely say is
we're gonna get to
a contender.
We're gonna get to that. But I think it's just been a pretty light year, which is a little bit of a disappointment, I guess. But
it seems like people are like the popularity of the battle royale genre and all of these free battle royale games that keep updating content and then have these game passes or these season passes and stuff. It seems like that has almost kind of coincided with a little bit of decline in the amount of AAA titles that we get.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think that there are a lot of factors contributing to that. And Ben, I think that you're right. The whole games as a service type thing is definitely a major contributing factor. But also, we're kind of we're getting new consoles next year, and so
yeah,
it's like this generation is kind of winding down.
Yeah,
but then also I'm not sure how legitimate of a point that is, because if we go back and look at so the PS4 and the Xbox One came out in 2012 or 2013. So if we go back and look at games that came out in 2012, Dishonored, Far Cry 3, Borderlands 2, Mass Effect 3, Assassin's Creed 3, Halo 4, Black Ops 2, Diablo 3, Max Payne 3. It was kind of a pretty good year. It wasn't like an all-time great year. Forza Horizon, it wasn't an all-time great year, but it was a pretty good year.
Yeah,
that's fair.
This year's been pretty timid game, AAA title wise.
Yeah, when I think that's definitely when we say when two of the three of us say, yeah, I mean, I guess it was Resident Evil 2, and we're very lukewarm on a game that came out in January and it's now July. It's it's pretty kind of a bummer of a year so far.
But don't you also think that last year really kind of put us on, because last year it was just banger after banger the entire year.
Yeah. Last year was, it was God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead. And then, on top of that, there were a bunch of other ones, but Jesus.
But those were definitely the big highlights, yeah.
God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
God, I miss God of War.
Well, and we got those
game.
all three of those spaced out so perfectly too that it was just banger in the late spring, banger in the summer, banger in the fall.
Yeah, banger in the late spring, banger in the late summer, banger in the fall. And then Smash was last year.
Yeah, no, it was loaded.
Yeah, last year was stacked. So this year, it's kind of expected that this year is going to be a little bit light. But Andrew, you mentioned that you think that it's going to be looking up. So tell me what you think is going to be what you're looking forward to.
Well, there's definitely, two of them, honestly. I would not say this is going to be any game of the year type thing, but I know Monster Hunter World was like a very popular game, so I do think Iceborne is going to probably like reignite that game a little bit. But I definitely would say Borderlands 3 is going to be like a major contender, because even like most of those games have made like a game of the year. Maybe not like game of the year specifically, but they've had, game of the year editions and everything, and like those games are definitely
very well liked.
Very well liked. It's Diablo with guns. What's not to like? You never get bored of it. You can play it for 5 minutes, you can play it for 5 hours, and you'll get like all sorts of new weird stuff and see weird kooky characters, and like the art style is really appeasing. I would definitely say I'm super excited for Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
I also just haven't played a couch co-op game in forever, so I'm excited to experiment with that.
Ben, any games that you're really looking forward to coming out later this year?
Link's Awakening.
Definitely. I was gonna say Link's Awakening. I mean, it does look like, to Andrew's point, it does look like the next 6 months are gonna be much more fruitful than the first. So, just going off.
We've got Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah.
Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Fallen Order.
Doom Eternal. I'm definitely excited for
I'm
Star
looking
Wars.
forward to.
Fallen Order is going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Shenmue 3.
Shenmue 3. Doom Eternal.
Gears 5.
That too.
Yeah, Gears 5 I'm super pumped for. Luigi's Mansion 3. 2,
FIFA 20. Madden 20. 2K 20.
Can't go wrong with those. Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Yeah.
It's I think that the next 6 months is like 2019 I think is going to end up shaping up to be a lot more like a traditional year of like, the spring is pretty light, the summer is a massive drought, and the fall is when we really get slammed. Which hasn't been the trend over the last couple of years. But I'm okay with, on a lighter year going back to a more traditional release schedule of drop all the hot games in the fall because there's room. Like, and that could be another contributing factor of, remember last year it was like, get the fuck out of the way of Red Dead.
Yeah.
Battlefield 5 got pushed. Call of Duty got bumped. And it's
is Doom Eternal still coming out this year, or is that next year?
No, Doom Eternal is in November.
Okay.
November will be Star Wars and Doom.
And
September, I know, is going to be Borderlands and Iceborne.
And November is going to be Star Wars, Doom, Death Stranding, and Pokemon. September is going to be Borderlands and what was the other one you said, Andrew?
Iceborne,
and also Gears 5. October is going to be Ghost Recon Breakpoint. September I think is also going to be Link's Awakening. So,
man,
Journey to the Savage Planet.
I don't know what that is.
Is that a game?
It's got a cinematic trailer, first person game. Player explores a colorful alien planet. It's Typhoon Studios, which is headed up by Alex Hutchinson, who was the creative director for Far Cry 4 and Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh, okay, cool. Also, The Outer Worlds is in October.
I hadn't heard of this Savage Planet game at all, but I did just Google a couple of just images. I'm like, oh, it looks kind of like No Man's Sky.
Yeah, no, I was looking at some stuff that made it look cool. Yeah, oh wow! I forgot Mech Warrior is coming back.
Oh,
Mech Warrior
seriously?
5. Yeah, for PC, September 10th.
Mech Warrior.
And I mean, Luigi's Mansion, I'm sure will be out in October. So this fall is going to be packed, and that's good because so far this year has kind of sucked. Not sucked in that like Sekiro and Resident Evil 2 and Apex suck, but like it's just been very light on games. So I noticed the other day that I've been playing games, a lot of older games. So
yeah,
Well,
we didn't talk about Rage 2.
oh yeah, because
But I don't think any of us played it.
also I don't think many people talked about Rage 2.
Yeah.
Rage 2, I have heard, is, while being kind of a simplistic game, I guess, I've heard it's actually a shitload of fun.
I heard
I've
it was
heard, like,
good.
as a shooter game, it's just like a ton of fun, and and like they constantly keep giving you stuff that keeps it feeling like sort of refreshed, so you constantly get like weird abilities and stuff. But I did hear that it's almost along the same lines as like Doom in terms of a shooter. Like it's just like good, simple point the gun and pull the trigger.
Amazing game.
Well, that's kind of how Wolfenstein is too. It's like all three of those games are probably kind of fairly similar.
And that's another one. Is Youngblood is coming out this month.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, no worries. But what about Sea of Solitude? I've heard a lot of very good things about that.
Sea of Solitude.
Oh, I did see that. That's more of like an
Oh
indie.
yeah. No,
But
yeah,
I've heard
I did hear
really
about
good
that.
things about it, actually.
Yeah, I heard
I've
really
read,
good
like,
I am
things.
curious. I think
yeah.
it's only like $20, and I'm pretty sure it's out.
Yeah, it is.
It did just recently come out, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, July 5th.
Yeah, I read multiple articles in the last week saying that it was really good.
I'd be interested in getting that because I do like those sorts of indie platformer.
Oh,
Like,
Skull and Bones is supposed to finally come out.
Skull and Bones is never coming out. Skull and Bones is the new Crackdown 3.
Crackdown 3.
Yeah. So, if you guys have to pick one game in 2016 or 2019 that you're looking forward to, what are you gonna call it?
Probably
def-
Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening.
I'm gonna go with Borderlands 3.
It's a remake, I know, but
Uh,
and I said that my favorite so far.
Ben just wants to play old games.
Yeah,
I'm definitely
I
excited
don't
for
know.
Iceborne, but man, it's really only just because I need something new to do in that game.
Yeah, I think that the game I'm looking forward to most for the rest of the year is definitely Death Stranding. So,
Oh, I forgot that comes out this year. I was thinking that was next spring.
Death Stranding is November. I took PTO. I'm taking 4 days straight to play that game. So,
Oh man, I might have to do that for some of these games in September.
yeah, just take the month of September off.
Just be like, you know what? I'm
Let's use all my
taking these
PTO
weeks off.
weddings.
Oh, barf. Fucking jerk friends getting married. Don't they know you have video games to play? Anyways, that's gonna so I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. I'm looking forward to the next 6 months. But that's gonna take us to the weekly trivia challenge.
Trivia!
All right, so this week's trivia question, brought to you by the letter O. The Overwatch character, D.Va, is a professional gamer and #1 in the world in which other game made by Blizzard Entertainment? Is it A, World of Warcraft, B, StarCraft 2, C, Dota 2, or D, NBA 2K19?
Wait, what was the question one more time?
The Overwatch character D.Va is a professional gamer and #1 in the world in which other game made by Blizzard Entertainment? Is it A, World of Warcraft, B, StarCraft 2, C, Dota Defense of the Ancients 2, or D, NBA 2K19?
Oh God, I'm gonna go with B, StarCraft. That's my final answer.
I'm
Ben?
going to go with Dota, final answer.
Well, Andrew gets a point this week because it is
Hey!
StarCraft 2. Defense of the Ancients actually isn't a Blizzard game, so...
I didn't know. I never
Total
heard
guess.
of Dota. Yeah.
I was like, it's definitely not Warcraft.
Well, that is all we've got for you guys tonight. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on whatever podcast or platform you found us on. We'll be back next week talking about whatever happens in the next week. So until then, just go play some games and reset.
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 I did the
If you're
wrong
having
outro.
trouble getting your stuff to start, just reset. Get a nice pencil, hit the little button, reset. Remember when you
Or
could do that
Dart
with, like,
works
Game
too
Boy?
sometimes too.
Yeah, had to like stick
I
your
just had to do that with my router tonight.
Did you get that new router yet?
No, I bought the cable modem for now and just hooked it up to the